They called it the Death Factory, a modified B-24 Liberator bomber stripped of everything except guns, armor, and ammunition, flying low over the jungles and islands of the Pacific, ripping apart everything in its path with a wall of lead that could shred a Japanese convoy in seconds. This was the B-24 Gunship, and the men who flew these missions knew that every time they took off, there was a very real chance they wouldn't come back. Subscribe to World War II Chronicles because these stories deserve to be told. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States found itself fighting a war across the vast Pacific Ocean. Thousands of miles of open water, hundreds of islands, dense jungle, and an enemy that controlled most of it. The Japanese had captured island after island, building airstrips, supply depots, and fortified positions across the Pacific. American bombers were sent to destroy these targets, flying high-altitude missions to drop bombs on enemy installations. But there was a problem. High-altitude bombing wasn't accurate. Bombs dropped from 20,000 feet often missed their targets completely, especially small ones like trucks, patrol boats, or gun emplacements hidden in the jungle. The Air Force needed something different, something that could fly low, find the target, and destroy it with precision. That's when someone had an idea. What if they took a bomber and turned it into a flying gun platform, not dropping bombs from above, but flying straight at the enemy and unleashing every gun it had at point-blank range? The concept wasn't entirely new. The British had experimented with similar tactics, but the Americans took it further. Much further. They chose the B-24 Liberator, a 4-engine heavy bomber already being used across the Pacific. But this version would be different. They stripped out the bomb bay, removed the belly turret, took out anything that wasn't essential. Then they started adding guns. Lots of guns. The nose of the aircraft was packed with 850 caliber Browning machine guns, all fixed to fire forward. The waist gunners on each side had their own 50 cals. The top turret had 2 more. Some versions even added 20mm cannons or 37mm guns taken from other aircraft. In total, a fully armed B-24 gunship could have up to 14 forward-firing machine guns. When all of them opened fire at once, the result was devastating. At a rate of fire around 750 rounds per minute per gun, a gunship could pour out over 10,000 rounds per minute into a target. That's more than 160 bullets every second, hitting the ground like a buzzsaw. The noise inside the aircraft was deafening. The guns shook the entire plane. Spent shell casings flew everywhere, piling up on the floor and bouncing around the crew compartment. The smell of gunpowder filled the air, and the vibration from all those guns firing at once made it feel like the aircraft was tearing itself apart. But it worked. In the hands of a skilled crew, a B-24 gunship could destroy a convoy of trucks in a single pass. Sink a patrol boat before it even knew what hit it. Shred an enemy airfield and leave nothing but burning wreckage. The Japanese learned to fear the sound of those engines, but the men who flew these missions paid a heavy price. Flying low meant flying into range of every rifle, machine gun, and anti-aircraft weapon the enemy had. And the Japanese were very good at hiding their guns. A gunship crew never knew when they'd be hit. 1 second, everything was fine. The next, tracers were cutting through the fuselage and the cockpit was filling with smoke. The B-24 was a big aircraft, a big target, and it wasn't built for low-level combat. The armor that protected high-altitude bombers from flak didn't help much when you were flying at 500 feet and taking fire from the side. Bullets punched through the thin aluminum skin like it was paper. Engines caught fire, hydraulic lines were severed, fuel tanks ruptured. Men were hit. Some crews never made it back. Others limped home with half their aircraft shot to pieces, engines dead, wounded men bleeding out in the back. One pilot described landing with over 200 bullet holes in his plane. Another crew came back with 1 engine completely gone and 2 more barely running. The co-pilot had been killed. The navigator was hit. And the radio operator had been holding pressure on a severed artery for an hour just to keep the waist gunner alive. But the missions kept coming. The B-24 gunship crews were sent after the most dangerous targets, heavily defended supply convoys, Japanese airfields packed with fighters, naval installations along the coast, Anything that needed to be destroyed and destroyed fast. Because if you want to understand the real stories of war, the ones that show what men endured when everything was on the line, subscribe to World War II Chronicles. Because these men fought with everything they had, and we owe it to them to remember. A typical mission started before dawn. The crew would gather for a briefing, learn the target, study maps, check weather. Then they'd walk out to their aircraft in the dark. Each man knew his job, the pilot and co-pilot in the cockpit, running through pre-flight checks, the navigator plotting the course, the bombardier, now acting as a gunner, checking the nose guns, the engineer monitoring fuel and engines, the radio operator ready to call for help if things went wrong, and the waist gunners standing by their guns, feeding belts of .50 caliber ammunition into the weapons. Each belt weighed around 6 pounds. They carried hundreds. The aircraft would taxi to the runway, engines roaring, 4 massive radial engines, each producing over 1,200 horsepower. The sound was overwhelming. Then the brakes released, and the B-24 surged forward, picking up speed, the tail lifting off the ground, and then they were airborne, climbing slowly into the dawn sky. The flight to the target could take hours. Long stretches over open ocean. Navigation was done by dead reckoning, using compass headings, airspeed, and time. If the navigator made a mistake, they could miss the target entirely. Or worse, run out of fuel over the ocean with no way home. As they approached the target area, the tension inside the aircraft grew. Every man was scanning the ground, looking for the convoy, the airfield, the supply depot, whatever they'd been sent to destroy. Then someone would spot it. There, 2 o'clock, trucks moving along a jungle road. The pilot would bank the aircraft, line up the approach, descending 3,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 1,000 feet. The engines screamed as the B-24 dove toward the target. The crew braced, hands on triggers, and then the order came. Guns free, fire! Every forward gun opened up at once. The aircraft shuddered. Tracers poured out in streams of red and white, converging on the target below. The trucks exploded. Fuel tanks erupted in flames. Men scattered. But the B-24 wasn't done. It roared over the convoy at 300 miles per hour, guns still firing, raking the entire length of the road. Then it pulled up hard, engines straining, climbing away. And that's when the enemy fired back. Muzzle flashes erupted from the jungle. Tracers arced up toward the aircraft. The sound of bullets hitting metal echoed through the fuselage. The waist gunners returned fire, trying to suppress the ground fire. But it was hard to hit anything while the plane was climbing and turning. The pilot threw the aircraft into evasive maneuvers, hard banks, sudden dives, anything to throw off the enemy's aim. But the B-24 was not agile. It was heavy, slow to respond, and the enemy gunners were experienced. More hits. The co-pilot shouted that the number 3 engine was losing oil pressure. The engineer called out that they were losing fuel from the right wing tank. The navigator reported that the radio was dead, and the bombardier in the nose had stopped answering. The pilot had a choice: abort the mission and head home, or make another pass. Most of them made another pass. They came around again, lower this time, guns blazing, destroying everything that was left. Then they turned for home. The flight back was always the longest. Wounded men groaning, engines sputtering, fuel gauges dropping. Some crews didn't make it. Engine failures over the ocean meant ditching in the water. And a B-24 didn't float for long. Life rafts were deployed, men scrambled out. And then they waited, hoping a rescue plane would find them before the sharks did, or before they died of thirst. Others made it back to base but crashed on landing. Hydraulics shot out, landing gear jammed, brakes gone. The aircraft would skid off the runway and collapse in a heap of twisted metal. Ground crews would pull the survivors out. Medics would rush the wounded to the hospital. And the next day, a new crew would take the same aircraft, patch the holes, and fly the same mission all over again. But here's the thing. Despite the losses, despite the fear, despite knowing that every mission could be their last, these men kept flying. They believed in what they were doing. They knew that every convoy they destroyed meant fewer supplies reaching Japanese troops. Every airfield they hit meant fewer enemy planes in the sky. Every gun emplacement they silenced meant fewer American soldiers killed on the ground. They were making a difference, and that kept them going. By 1944, the B-24 gunship had proven itself. It had become one of the most effective ground attack weapons in the Pacific. Japanese forces learned to move only at night, to hide their vehicles under thick jungle cover, to scatter at the first sound of aircraft engines. But it didn't always save them. The gunship crews got better. They learned to spot camouflage, to predict where convoys would be, to strike fast and get out before the enemy could react. And they kept flying, month after month, mission after mission, until the war finally ended. When it was over, the B-24 gunships were quietly retired. Most were scrapped, stripped for parts, forgotten. The men who flew them went home. They didn't talk much about what they'd done, about the fear, the losses, the friends who never came back. But they remembered. They remembered every mission, every target, every close call, and they carried those memories for the rest of their lives. If you want to hear more stories like this, stories about the men who fought in the forgotten corners of the war, subscribe to World War II Chronicles. Because history like this deserves to be remembered. The B-24 gunship was never as famous as the B-17, never as celebrated as the fighters. But it did a job that no other aircraft could do, and the men who flew it were some of the bravest men in the war. This is World War II Chronicles, where history isn't just remembered, it's felt.